Hello, friend. So glad you're here tonight. Get comfortable, pull the covers up, and let the day loosen its grip. There's nowhere else you need to be. Before we begin, a small request. Most of the people listening tonight aren't subscribed. If this channel has ever helped you drift off, take a moment to subscribe and tap the like button on tonight's video. Both are free, they take 2 seconds, and they help this channel more than you'd think. And you can always change your mind later. And if you feel like it, leave a comment telling me where in the world you're listening from and what time it is where you are. I love reading them. Tonight's question is a quiet one. How did frontier families actually sleep night after night without insulation? The answer is slower and stranger than you might expect, and every piece of it is real. There is nothing to do here and nothing to remember. If you fall asleep before the answer is finished, that is exactly how this is meant to work. Settle in and let your breathing slow down. One more thing before we begin. I'm also a co-founder of a sleep app built to be the most affordable one out there. No ads, ever. Just sounds and stories made to help you sleep. It may not be released yet as this video goes up, but if you're watching a little later, it might be out by now. Just search for it, it should be easy to find. It works on iPhone, Android, and everything in between. Downloading it is the best way to support this channel. In the distant past, disruption assistance provided a comfort to passengers in a world where travel by air was less predictable. If their journey was delayed for 2 hours or more, they could find solace knowing they had options. They could choose to rebook on any airline that suited them best, or if they preferred, they could opt for a full refund of their fare. This reassurance was a small beacon of hope amidst the chaos of unexpected delays and cancellations. Passengers would wait in airport terminals, their eyes scanning departure boards, their minds calculating new routes and plans. The hum of announcements over the loudspeakers would become a familiar backdrop to these moments of uncertainty. They could lean on the promise of disruption assistance, a small but meaningful lifeline in the unpredictable world of air travel. The cool fluorescent lights of the terminal would cast a steady glow over travellers' faces as they awaited news. The rhythmic click-clack of rolling luggage echoing down the corridor became a metronome for their thoughts. The scent of fresh coffee and baked goods from the nearby cafe offered brief comfort, grounding them in the present moment. A soft murmur of distant conversations blended into a soothing white noise, enveloping them as they navigated through the ebb and flow of uncertainty. The gentle whir of the escalator moving them closer to their gate became a comforting mantra. The rhythmic thrum of distant airplane engines resonated through the floor, a constant reminder of the world beyond the terminal. A sense of calm permeated the space as travellers found moments of respite in the familiar routines of airports. The soft patter of rain against the terminal windows brought a sense of tranquility to those waiting. In the quiet of a winter's evening, they prepared for their journey. Unaccompanied minors between the ages of 5 and 14 could travel with an escort service, paying a full adult fare plus an additional 110 fee for each direction they would take. The children, ready to embark on this adventure alone, were aware that this extra cost was necessary. The fee for the unaccompanied minor service, set at 110 per direction, ensured their safe passage. As they boarded the plane, they knew that the fare they paid would not be reduced, but the escort's watchful eye would keep them secure until they reached their destination. Their hearts fluttered as they stepped onto the aircraft, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. The escort's presence provided a sense of comfort, like a warm blanket on a chilly night. Every movement was deliberate, each step a reminder that they were not alone in this vast machine. The hum of the engine beneath them served as a steady rhythm, reassuring them that their journey had begun. Their small hands gripped the seat in front of them, fingers tracing patterns into the fabric as they watched the world outside shrink. The cabin lights dimmed, casting long shadows that danced with the gentle sway of the aircraft. Above their heads, a soft hum from the air vents filled the silence, a quiet whisper echoing through the night sky. Below them, the land stretched out like a dark quilt, patches of light twinkling in the distance as they ascended into the stillness. Children aged 15 to 17, in this world of frontier log cabins, had the option to travel alone or with an escort. They could choose to journey as unaccompanied minors, with a trusted service guiding them through the rugged terrain. Alternatively, they could opt for the freedom and responsibility that came with traveling as adult passengers, navigating the wilderness on their own terms. These youths, standing at the cusp of adulthood, would often set out early in the morning, their breath visible in the crisp air. They would bundle up against the cold, the wool of their blankets muffling any sounds they might make as they walked. The steady rhythm of their footsteps, one after another, echoed softly in the quiet expanse around them. Each step was a promise of growth and independence, a silent declaration of their readiness to face the challenges that lay ahead. Their backpacks, laden with essentials and memories, would sway gently with each stride, the weight a comforting reminder of their preparedness. The sunlight, filtering through the canopy above, would cast dappled shadows on the forest floor, creating an ever-changing tapestry beneath their feet. Their senses would heighten, alert to every rustle and call, their minds attuned to the rhythm of nature around them. As they paused for a moment's rest, the silence would be broken only by the distant hoot of an owl, signaling that they were not alone in this vast wilderness. Their boots, worn smooth by countless miles, gripped the earth firmly, leaving temporary imprints in the damp soil. The scent of pine needles filled their nostrils, grounding them further into the present moment. A light breeze carried whispers from the trees, their leaves shimmering like silver coins against the sky. The quiet intimacy of this journey was a private ritual, a secret shared only with the forest's ancient guardians. In the world they lived in, children aged 5 to 14 were considered unaccompanied minors by Frontier Airlines when traveling alone. They were not allowed to fly without a companion of at least 15 years old. The airline viewed them as needing special care and attention during their journey. A fee of $110 was charged for each direction of travel, ensuring that these young passengers received the support they needed. This service fee remained consistent regardless of the type of fare purchased by their families. Children under 5 were not accepted on such flights, highlighting the airline's commitment to safety and appropriate care for its youngest passengers. Parents and guardians would often wait nervously at the gate, their hearts pounding as they watched their young ones board. A special lanyard was provided to each unaccompanied minor, its bright colour making them easily identifiable to crew members throughout the flight. The airline staff were trained to offer extra assistance, guiding these children through security checks and helping them with their belongings. At the arrival gate, they were personally escorted off the plane, ensuring a smooth transition back into their family's care. The lanyard dangled gently around each child's neck, a reassuring presence as they navigated the bustling airport. Airline staff would patiently explain each step to the minors, breaking down the complex process into simple, manageable parts. Parents could track their children's progress through designated call centers, offering a lifeline during the flight. Once settled in their seats, the crew ensured each minor had their favorite snack and comfort toy within reach. Frontiers publishes peer-reviewed articles in open-access journals. They lived in log cabins, simple structures made of interlocking logs. The winter cold was intense, the insulation minimal, and the nights were long. Their world was quiet, with only the crackling fire and soft whispers breaking the silence. Frontiers is an open-access publisher of peer-reviewed scientific articles. They would huddle together for warmth, their bodies a source of comfort in the frigid air. The openings between the logs let in drafts, which were barely noticeable amidst the deeper chill. Their routines were practical, focusing on survival and the simple pleasures of family and community. The open-access journals provided a means for sharing knowledge widely, even in the most remote frontier settings. Their breaths fogged up in the cabin air, a constant reminder of their body's warmth. Each morning, they would tend to the fireplace, coaxing life back into the embers for another day. They wore layers of wool and furs, the fabric rough against their skin yet providing essential protection from the elements. The faint scent of pine lingered in every corner, a subtle comfort in the harsh environment. The snow outside would muffle any sound from the world beyond their cabin walls, creating a sense of isolation that was both comforting and daunting. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows across their faces, a gentle dance of light and dark as they sat together in the evenings. Their hands were often calloused from the hard work outdoors, but inside the cabin, they held each other with tenderness and care. A faint, comforting aroma of cooked meals would linger throughout the days, reminding them of nourishment and sustenance amidst the cold. In the quiet of a distant time, unaccompanied miners were not allowed to book connecting itineraries or flights that made stops. They lived in worlds where travel was simpler and more direct. Journeys were planned with care, ensuring no unexpected breaks. The rules were clear, shaping their lives and travels in straightforward ways. In these times, independence for the young meant understanding boundaries set by those who cared for them. Flights were direct, no stops to complicate the journey. They moved from one place to another with a sense of calm certainty. They boarded the aircraft, buckled their seat belts, and settled into their seats. The engines hummed softly as they took off, soaring above the landscape without interruption. Passengers dozed or read quietly, trusting in the unbroken path ahead. Arrival was anticipated with serene expectation. Each flight attendant moved with practiced grace, ensuring every need was met without fuss. Windows revealed only the tranquil blue of sky and distant clouds, broken only by the occasional glimpse of a wingtip. Overhead compartments remained securely shut, their contents undisturbed throughout the journey. The gentle rocking of the aircraft lulled passengers into a state of peaceful contentment, as if carried on a warm summer breeze. The aircraft's steady hum filled the cabin like a soft lullaby, calming any anxious thoughts. The air was cool and refreshing, gently circulating through vents hidden behind smooth panels. Lights dimmed gradually to mimic the setting sun, signaling that it was time for quiet rest. A faint scent of ozone hung in the air, a subtle reminder of the safe passage above the clouds. In the quiet of an early morning, they would huddle together in their log cabins, seeking respite from the biting cold outside. The Frontier mobile app, a tool unheard of in their time, allowed them to manage their travels with ease. With a few taps on a screen that was still a distant dream, they could book journeys, receive boarding passes, and ensure a smooth check-in process. This simple yet powerful device would have been a marvel to them, making the world more accessible in ways they could barely fathom. The cold wooden floors beneath their feet were a constant reminder of the harsh realities they faced daily, but the convenience provided by this app brought a sense of security and comfort to their lives. Their fingers, once calloused from hard labor, now gently traced the smooth glass surface of the app. The faint glow of the screen cast long shadows on their faces, a stark contrast to the dim light seeping through the cabin's window. As they navigated the menus, the sound of their own breath echoed in the stillness, mingling with the soft hum of the device. Each tap was deliberate, as if fearful that the magic might fade away. Their eyes, once accustomed to the flickering light of candles and fires, now adapted to the steady gleam of the screen. The app's interface was intuitive, each icon a tiny emblem of modernity they had never encountered. With each interaction, the device seemed to anticipate their needs, as if possessed of an otherworldly intelligence. In this quiet dance with technology, they found moments of tranquility amidst the wilderness. There was a time when travelers could find discounted flight offers on the Frontier website, such as the Discount Den Basic there. It was a way for people to explore and journey without too much burden on their wallets. They would scroll through the options, comparing rates and destinations, always keeping an eye out for the best deals. Sometimes, they would share these finds with friends or family, planning trips together. The simplicity of this process made travel more accessible to many. Booking a flight was often accompanied by a sense of anticipation and excitement, looking forward to the adventure ahead. Despite the savings, there was no compromise on the quality of service provided. The process was straightforward and efficient, making it easy for anyone to plan their next journey. A calm sense of possibility filled the air as fingers glided over the mouse, navigating through various destinations and time frames. The screen would display a multitude of options, each offering a different path to discovery with clear pricing and no hidden fees. The user could take their time, savouring the moment of decision, secure in the knowledge that they were in control of their adventure. Every click brought them one step closer to the world waiting outside their door. A soft glow from the monitor cast a warm hue over the room as they browsed through the various destinations. Each tap of the keyboard echoed lightly in the quiet space, adding to the peaceful ambience of planning. The faint hum of the computer fan was the only background noise, creating an intimate atmosphere for their travel dreams. As they hovered over each option, a gentle cursor blink signaled the potential for new experiences awaiting discovery. In the days of the Frontier Miles program, users had the ability to earn and use miles, even donating them when they chose. They would sit down at their desks, the wood creaking softly under their hands, and log in to see their balances grow with each transaction. The cold air from outside would nudge at the window, a reminder of the world beyond as they click through menus and options. In the quiet of their homes, they would plan their next trip or gift, the sounds of the keyboard gentle and rhythmic. At times, they would gather around the fireplace, the warmth a comforting contrast to the cold night air, discussing where their miles might take them. The process was simple, yet meaningful, a routine that brought both comfort and excitement into their daily lives. They would hold their breath as they submitted each form, awaiting the confirmation of a successful transaction. The hum of the computer would lull them into a sense of security, while the clicking of the mouse became second nature to their fingers. They would lean back in their chairs, the leather creaking softly, dreaming of the destinations and experiences their miles could unlock. The glow of the screen reflected on their faces, casting a warm light in the room as they navigated through their journey. Their fingers would glide over the smooth keys of their keyboards, each press deliberate and sure. The gentle whir of the hard drive was a familiar lullaby, singing them through each step of the process. They could see the distant horizon in their mind's eye as they inputted their details, each keystroke bringing it closer. The scent of fresh coffee from the pot nearby would waft through the air, adding to the cozy atmosphere of planning and anticipation. Frontier families often slept on the ground using bedrolls, their bodies resting directly upon the earth. The ground was firm and cool, a contrast to the warmth of their bedding. They would spread out blankets or quilts, sometimes layered for added protection against the night's chill. These bedrolls were their sanctuary, a simple yet effective means to find respite from the day's labour. The rustling of fabric as they settled in was often the only sound breaking the quiet of the cabin. There was no insulation from the elements, so the cold seeped in, reminding them of nature's presence. Yet, this direct connection to their surroundings was a part of their routine, a comforting constant in their lives. Their bodies would conform to the undulations of the earth, each bump and hollow a familiar embrace. The scent of damp soil mixed with the lingering aroma of the day's campfire. A gentle breeze through the cabin's open window brought whispers of night air, brushing against their faces as they drifted off to sleep. The weight of a worn blanket provided a sense of security, shielding them from the unknown that lay beyond the cabin walls. Their breaths fogged in the air as they tucked their hands under the blankets to retain what warmth remained. The cabin walls, thin and unyielding, did little to muffle the distant hoot of an owl or the soft crunch of leaves outside. In the dim light cast by a single candle, shadows danced on the ceiling, creating a rhythmic pattern that lulled them into deeper slumber. The faint glow also served as a beacon, guiding any restless soul who stirred in the night back to their cozy nest. Campfire programs have impacted more than 815,000 youth and families since 2017. In the heart of these initiatives, families found solace in simple routines. They would gather around the warmth of a fireplace, its gentle crackle offering comfort against the chill of the night. The logs, stacked with care, radiated a soothing heat that filled the room. Despite the lack of insulation, the atmosphere was cozy and inviting. Blankets were laid out on simple beds made of hay or straw, providing a soft cushion for weary bodies. The rhythmic sound of the fire lulled them into a peaceful sleep. The next morning, they would awaken to the familiar scent of wood smoke, ready to face another day together. The first light of dawn would creep in through the windows, painting the walls with a soft glow. A gentle breeze carried the remnants of the previous night's warmth into their dreams. The crackling embers from the fireplace still held a faint pulse, as if whispering stories of the past evening. With each stretch and yawn, the family members would rise, leaving behind the comfort of their makeshift beds, ready to embrace the new day with renewed energy. The hay beneath their heads cradled them like a gentle hammock, its softness easing the tension in their shoulders. The fireplace's heat lingered, warming the floorboards and creating a subtle radiance that bathed the room in a sense of security. As they stirred, the crisp morning air nipped at their noses, waking them fully with each breath. The simple act of rising from their beds, one by one, became a quiet dance, their movements synchronized by the rhythm of the night before. In the heart of frontier life, wagons were invaluable to families and outdoor enthusiasts alike. These sturdy vehicles offered a practical solution for both transporting belongings across vast distances and serving as temporary shelter during their journeys. They were designed with functionality in mind, providing ample space for both people and supplies. Despite the lack of modern comforts, these wagons offered a sense of security and familiarity amidst the unfamiliar terrain. The cold nights were met with thick blankets and warm clothing, creating a cozy environment within the wagon's interior. The gentle rocking motion of the wagon, combined with the rhythmic sounds of nature outside, lulled its inhabitants to sleep each night. This routine provided a sense of stability in an otherwise unpredictable world. The waxed canvas flaps could be cinched tight against the wind, while the wooden frame creaked softly with each gust. The lantern's glow cast long, dancing shadows on the walls, creating a comforting ambience. The wagon's design ensured that water did not seep in during rainy nights, keeping occupants dry and protected. A subtle scent of hay and wood filled the air, further enhancing the sense of tranquility within the wagon's interior. The wagon's wheels, with their wide rims and sturdy spokes, absorbed the jolts of uneven terrain, creating a steady rhythm that soothed the weary travelers. The canvas roof muffled the distant howls of coyotes and the occasional far-off thunder, allowing sleep to come easily. The wagon's bedding was filled with soft feathers from wild geese, offering a plush surface for tired bodies to rest upon. The scent of pine wood from the wagon's frame blended with the hay, creating a calming atmosphere that enveloped the sleeping family. In the heart of the frontier, each day presented its own challenges to those settling the land. They faced the element's unpredictability and dedicated themselves to building communities from nothing but the ground up. Each morning, their log cabins stood tall against the cold winds that blew through the forest. These homes offered little more than simple protection, with no modern comforts like insulation. The people spent each day working tirelessly, carving out a life in this untamed land. At night, they retired to their beds, often just pallets on the floor or primitive mattresses filled with hay or straw. The cold seeped in through the cracks in the logs, and the wind whispered secrets through the roof. Despite the discomfort, they found solace in the warmth of their families huddled close together, sharing stories and dreams as they drifted off to sleep. Their breaths rose like tiny clouds in the chilled air as they lay beneath coarse blankets. The scent of wood smoke clung to their clothes from the fire that burned low in the hearth, providing a faint warmth. The moonlight filtering through the windows cast long shadows across the room, dancing with the flicker of the flame. In the distance, the hoots of owls punctuated the night's quiet, while closer to home, the steady rhythm of their own breathing filled the silence. Their bodies ached from the day's labour, finding temporary relief in the embrace of exhaustion. The faint creaking of the cabin's timbers became a comforting lullaby, echoing the rhythm of their breathing. Each inhale brought a whiff of pine resin from the log walls, grounding them in this place they called home. As sleep took hold, the wind outside seemed to whisper tales of tomorrow's challenges, yet for now, all was still and peaceful within. Children on the frontier were expected to contribute to household chores from a very young age. Even at 5 years old, they would be responsible for various tasks around the cabin. These children, despite their youth, helped with sweeping the floor made of packed dirt and keeping the fire burning in the simple hearth. They fetched water from the nearby stream, their small hands gripping the heavy bucket as they trudged through the cold morning air. In the evenings, they would often help prepare dinner over the open flame, learning to cook the family's meals while their parents worked on other tasks. The children's chores did not stop at night. They also had to help lay out bedding in the communal sleeping area, where the entire family huddled together for warmth against the chill of the uninsulated log cabin. Their small bodies would sink into the thick quilt, feeling the coolness of the log walls against their backs. The rhythmic hum of their parents' breathing filled the air, a comforting soundtrack to their dreams. In the dark, shadows danced on the cabin's rough-hewn ceiling, cast by the embers in the hearth. The scent of smoke and wood lingered in the air, a familiar smell that signaled another day had passed. The children's eyelids grew heavy under the weight of the day's labour, their tiny hands clutching the worn edges of the quilts for warmth. The cabin's log walls creaked softly with the night's chill, a comforting lullaby that eased them into sleep. A faint glow from the dying embers offered just enough light to see the outline of their siblings beside them, their breaths synchronized in the quiet darkness. In the distance, the hoot of an owl echoed through the forest, a familiar tune that signaled the night's deep peace. Frontier children, the young ones in those remote cabins, had to fetch water for their households each day. They would gather firewood too, bundling it together with strong hands and determined focus. The cold of the morning air would nip at their noses as they stepped out of the cabin's warmth, their breath visible in the crisp air. The sound of the axe splitting wood echoed through the woods, a rhythmic beat that became familiar over time. Back at the cabin, the children would stack the firewood neatly, ensuring it was dry and ready for use. The water they fetched from the nearby stream or well was clear and cool, the feel of it on their skin, a refreshing contrast to the warmth inside. After their chores were done, they would sit by the hearth, the crackling fire, a comforting sound as they warmed their hands and listened to the tales told by their elders. Their calloused hands, roughened from handling wood and rope, would find solace in the smoothness of the water pail's rim. The heat of the fireplace would gradually warm their damp clothing, leaving a pleasant scent of smoke mingled with the freshness of the woods. A subtle shiver would still run through them as they listened intently to the stories, their bodies gently relaxing into the comfort of the cabin. Underneath the quilt on their bed, the sound of crickets outside would lull them into a peaceful sleep, the day's chores now forgotten. The weight of the quilt would settle around their shoulders, its rough texture grounding them in the moment. Their eyes would grow heavy with each drawn-out breath, the rhythmic pattern of the crickets outside matching their own heartbeat. The cabin's walls, thick with the years of stories told within, seemed to hum softly with the warmth emanating from the fireplace. A faint glow from the dying embers cast long shadows across the room, dancing gently on the wooden floor until they faded into sleep. In the stillness of the frontier nights, deaths on the trail west were often caused by disease, a silent and relentless foe. Wagon accidents claimed lives too, their sudden jolts and crashes echoing through the harsh terrain. Accidental gunshots rang out in the quiet, a stark reminder of the ever-present danger. During river crossings, water's swift currents swept some away forever, leaving only emptiness behind. The moon cast eerie shadows on the silent faces of the slain, their final breaths unheard in the vast emptiness. A sudden chill in the night air served as a portent of the grim reaper's passage. Fires, once sources of comfort, now flickered faintly, echoing the fading life of those who lay unmoving. The whisper of the wind through the barren trees was the only solace for the departed souls. The rustle of night creatures echoed the hush of their final breaths. The distant howl of a coyote marked the end of another life. Silent gravesites were left unmarked, the sand and stone shifting with each wind. The cold, hard ground offered little solace to those laid to rest beneath the vast sky. The dim glow of the campfire cast a haunting light on the somber faces of the survivors, each one etched with the memory of the fallen. A lone wolf's distant call seemed to echo the sorrow that lingered in the air. The faint smell of smoke and earth blended into an eerie scent that clung to their clothes and hair. The steady drip of a leaky wagon wheel served as a morbid metronome, marking time in the quiet despair. Frontier families slept on simple materials in their log cabins, lacking the modern comforts of today's beds and insulation. They would often use straw or hay for a mattress, sometimes adding a thin layer of cloth to soften the surface. The cold nights were a constant companion, yet they found ways to endure. Blankets made from woven wool provided some warmth, though not enough to completely ward off the chill. The cabin's wooden walls and floors would creak with each shift in temperature, adding a rhythmic symphony to their sleep. Their days began at dawn, when the first light crept through the small windows, signaling it was time to rise and start the daily chores. Their breaths would mist in the frigid air, condensing on the rough-hewn logs above their heads. The scent of the forest outside mingled with the earthy aroma of the straw beneath them, creating a familiar comfort. A dim lantern flickered nearby, casting long shadows that danced with the subtle movements of the flame. The gentle rocking of a cradle in the corner accompanied the creaks of the cabin, lulling all to sleep. The thin layer of cloth on the straw would shift with each movement, creating a rustling lullaby that blended with the creaks of the cabin. The wool blankets would sometimes slip off in the night, revealing limbs to the cold air before being tugged back up by restless sleepers. The fire in the hearth would burn low, casting an amber glow on the rough walls and ceiling beams. The wind outside would howl softly, a wild symphony that seemed to weave itself into the dreams of those within. In the quiet of their homes, women were busy with tasks like making soap from lye, water, and ashes, spinning wool or flax into thread, tending to gardens, and sewing clothes. They would gather the materials needed for these tasks, the cold water from the well, the rough texture of the wool in their hands. The steady rhythm of the spinning wheel filled the cabin, while outside, the wind rustled the leaves of the garden they had planted. Their days were simple and full, focused on the essentials to keep their families warm and clothed through the changing seasons. Their hands, rough from years of labour, deftly plied the spinning wheel's treadle as if in a dance. The scent of lye soap filled the air, mingling with the earthy smell of the garden outside. A thin film of sweat gathered on their brows, testimony to the warmth of the hearth and the exertion of their work. The quiet hum of industry was punctuated only by the occasional creak of the wooden floor as they moved about the cabin. They paused in their work to wipe the soap from their hands with a cloth worn soft by years of use. The sun's slanting rays through the window cast long shadows on the earthen floor, marking the passage of time as they laboured. Occasionally, a breeze would lift the hem of their skirts, carrying with it the scent of distant rain and reminding them of the changing weather outside. As evening approached, the cabin filled with a soft glow from the oil lamps, casting long shadows on the walls as they continued their tasks by the fading light. In those days of the frontier, children's chores would begin promptly once they were old enough to lend a hand. They learned early the importance of helping out around the log cabin, their tiny feet shuffling across the rough-hewn floorboards. The beds inside were typically made of simple materials like straw or hay, providing little insulation from the cold nights ahead. As the fire in the hearth slowly died down, the children would snuggle together beneath their coarse blankets, trying to keep warm. The sounds of their mother tending to the nightly chores would fill the small cabin, a comforting rhythm that signaled the end of another long day. The wind would whistle through the cracks in the cabin walls, chilling their noses and making their ears ache. The moonlight streaming through the small window cast long, dancing shadows on the wall opposite them, keeping watch over their slumbering forms. Their breaths misted slightly with each exhale, condensing into tiny clouds above their heads. In the morning, they would awaken to find frost on the inside of their blankets, a reminder of the night's harsh embrace. Their blankets smelled of wood smoke and damp wool, a comforting scent that mingled with the aroma of their mother's bread baking earlier in the day. The weight of the blankets pressed down on them, heavy with the night's chill and the moisture from their breaths. Their thin nightshirts clung to their skin, chilled by the draft that found its way through the gaps between the logs. The floorboards beneath their beds creaked softly as they shifted in their sleep, the rhythm matching the steady ticking of the clock on the mantelpiece. Frontier Airlines allowed travelers to add bags and seats through their app, even on cold nights without modern comforts. The families of the frontier lived in log cabins, often devoid of insulation, braving the chill that seeped through the wooden walls. They would huddle together for warmth under blankets made from animal skins or woven from wool. Despite the discomfort, they found solace in the familiar routines of the evening, perhaps sharing stories around a dimly lit fire. Frontier Airlines offered discounted fares through their discount den, basic fare, much like how these pioneers made do with what little they had. The creaking of the log cabins and the distant hoots of owls were the lullabies that sent them into a peaceful slumber, unbothered by the lack of modern amenities. The sound of the fire crackling was their only source of comfort as they drifted off to sleep, leaving the world of cold nights behind. The warmth from the fireplace would gradually dissipate as the night wore on, leaving only the faintest glow of embers. The wool blankets, though rough and heavy, provided some respite from the biting wind that howled outside. Each breath taken in the chilled air was visible in the dim light, a reminder of the harsh conditions they endured. The scent of smoke lingered in their clothes and hair, a constant reminder of their simple yet necessary comfort. The cabin walls, warmed by the day's sunlight, began to lose their heat as the night deepened, sending a chill creeping into the room. The fire's warmth was fleeting, like a soft whisper in the cold air, fading as the embers cooled. Each breath drawn into the lungs felt like a sharp pinprick, the cold air stinging with each inhale and exhale. The log cabin groaned softly under the weight of the wind, its old timber creaking in protest against the harsh night. Frontier Internet offered fiber internet, TV, and phone services to frontier families who braved the cold nights without insulation in their log cabins. These early settlers endured harsh conditions, finding solace in each other's company and simple routines. Their cabins, made of thick logs, provided some respite from the wind, but little defense against the biting chill that seeped through the cracks. The nights were long and dark, filled with the distant howls of wolves and the occasional crackle of wood in the hearth. They huddled together under thin blankets, seeking warmth amidst the cold embrace of their homes. Frontier's TV packages brought a small glimpse of the outside world into their isolated lives, while phone services allowed for rare connections with distant relatives or neighbours. Their breaths condensed in the frigid air, each exhale visible as a fleeting mist. The fire's embers flickered and faded, leaving an ashen residue on the hearth. A thin layer of frost formed on the inside of the cabin walls, sparkling under the feeble light of their oil lamps. The wind's whistle through the cracks seemed to sing a mournful tune, echoing the settlers' longing for warmer climes. Their hands trembled with the cold as they reached for their cups of warm tea, hoping to stave off the numbness. The cabin floor creaked under their bare feet, reminding them of the unyielding winter outside. They could feel the ice forming on the inside of the window panes, a silent sentinel guarding against the warmth they yearned for. A small draft snaked through the door, stealing away any heat that dared to linger. In the early days of 2024, precisely on March 20th, the Frontier's email service and support found a new home. They were now managed solely by Yahoo. The once familiar emails from another time were replaced with a different name in the sender field. It was a small change that spoke volumes about the shifting landscape of their digital world. They would sit at their makeshift desks, the cold wood of their log cabins contrasting sharply with the warmth of their screens. Their fingers would dance lightly over the keys, each tap echoing softly in the quiet of the night. The crackling fire behind them cast long shadows on the walls, a comforting reminder of the hearth's steadfast presence. They would read through emails, their minds far from the cold nights outside and the missing comforts of insulation. Each message was a link to another part of the world, a silent promise that even in the harshest conditions, connection could still be found. Their breaths would mist in the chill air as they typed, the steam rising and catching the light of the fire. The logs in the hearth would settle with a soft thud, sending sparks dancing up the chimney. The email notifications would chime softly, each one a distant echo of civilization amidst the wilderness. The screen's glow would reflect off the frost on the window panes, creating an ethereal dance of light and shadow. Their bodies huddled closer to the fireplace, seeking its meager heat. The cabin's thin walls offered little protection against the howling wind outside. Each breath drawn was a conscious decision, as if stealing warmth from the very air they inhaled. The glow of the screen illuminated their faces, casting long, exhausted shadows beneath their eyes. Frontiers has published articles that have received over 5.3 billion article views and downloads. In the stillness of a cold night, they would huddle together in their log cabins, the rough-hewn wood offering little protection against the chill. They would layer themselves with whatever blankets and clothes they had, seeking comfort in each other's warmth. The crackling fire in the hearth was their main source of heat, its glow casting long shadows on the simple furnishings. Despite the cold, sleep often came easily after a day of hard work, the sounds of nature outside lulling them into a peaceful slumber. They would rise with the first light, the crisp air nipping at their noses as they began another day in this rugged land without modern comforts. Their breaths misted in the frigid air, condensing on the rafters above them like a soft, white blanket. The lobs of the cabin creaked gently with each shift in temperature, a comforting rhythm that echoed through the nights. They would often wake to find frost clinging to their blankets, melting away as the fire gradually warmed the room. The rustic bedding was coarse and rough against their skin, yet it held them close in the embrace of simple necessity. The rough edges of the logs dug into their backs, leaving impressions that would linger until the sun warmed them again. Each night, they added another layer of clothes and blankets, knowing that a single gust through the chimney could steal their hard-earned warmth. The cabin's single window was a patchwork of oilcloth and canvas, letting in the faintest glimmer of starlight while holding back the wind. There were various ways to build campfires in those times. Teepee, log cabin, hybrid, crossfire, lean-to, rack of alkea, Swedish torch, keyhole fire, top lighter, Dakota smokeless pit fire, star fire. All these methods provided warmth during the cold nights. They would gather materials, carefully arranging them to create a stable flame. The crackling of the fire was a comforting sound in the silence of the night. The campfire's glow cast long shadows on the log cabin walls. It offered respite from the missing comforts of modern life. They huddled close, sharing stories and warmth as the cold seeped into their bones. The smoke from the fire curled upwards, disappearing into the vast sky above. The embers glowed like tiny suns in the darkening night, their warmth radiating outward. The scent of burning wood filled the air, a familiar aroma that calmed and soothed the senses. They added more logs to the fire, watching as sparks danced upward before fading into nothingness. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves above, carrying whispers of the flame's warmth. Their breaths visible in the chilly air, they cupped their hands around steaming mugs of tea. The fire's reflection shimmered on the surface, a flickering constellation mirroring the night sky. A soft humming filled the air as the heat warmed their fingers and toes. The distant howl of a wolf echoed through the trees, a reminder of the wilderness that surrounded them. The fire's heat soothed the ache in their muscles, each tendril of warmth slowly melting away the day's fatigue. They felt the rhythmic pulse of the flames, steady and reassuring as it ebbed and flowed with each breath they took. The wood's resinous scent deepened as the fire consumed the logs, mingling with the cool night air to create a comforting, smoky atmosphere. Their voices grew softer as the hours passed, the sound of crackling flames becoming the dominant melody in their quiet, intimate gathering. Winter on the frontier was a season that could undo all the work of the year. Snow, wind, and isolation were the unwanted guests who arrived without notice. They huddled close to the fire, trying to keep warm in their log cabins. The cold nights were long and harsh, with little comfort from the thin walls of their homes. The wind howled outside, as if telling tales of the hardships yet to come. They slept on beds of straw or pallets filled with corn husks, a far cry from the soft mattresses of today. The sound of the fire crackling was their lullaby, a constant reminder of both warmth and danger. Their breaths turned to mist in the air, a sight that became all too familiar during these cold nights. Their hands and feet were perpetually cold, numbed by the relentless chill that seeped into every corner of their cabins. They would awake to find their blankets frozen stiff, each breath they exhaled visible in the frigid air. The creaking timbers above them groaned under the weight of snow, a constant reminder of the season's unyielding grip. They would wrap themselves in worn woolen blankets, the coarse fibers providing scant insulation against the biting cold. The cabin's rough-hewn timbers offered little barrier against the wind that whistled through cracks and knotholes, chilling their bones to the marrow. Their clothing, damp from sweat and steam, clung to them like a second skin, drawing heat away from their bodies. Each breath drawn was a struggle, as if inhaling the very essence of winter itself. In the heart of the day, known as the dangers of the dark, Frontier Airlines offers a unique service, combining flight vacation packages that include both hotel and car bookings. They can be found at flights.flyfrontier.com, where the process is seamless and user-friendly. The airline provides a helpful tool for tracking flight status on their website, ensuring passengers are always well informed. Families living in log cabins without insulation faced similar challenges in planning their journeys, relying heavily on predictability and preparation. Their days were filled with the sounds of crackling fires and the feel of rough-hewn logs against their backs as they huddled together for warmth. The nights brought an eerie silence, punctuated only by the distant howls of wild animals. Despite these hardships, they developed routines that offered a sense of normalcy in their otherwise unpredictable lives. Their nights were often sleepless, ears straining for any sound that might signal danger. They would whisper stories to one another, voices barely audible, as a way to keep spirits up. Every creak and groan of the cabin was scrutinized, each shadow on the wall scrutinized for movement. In the morning, they would wake with the first light, muscles stiff from the cold and the tension of the night before. The wind outside whipped through the cracks in the walls, biting at their skin like tiny needles. The cabin's single window let in a faint glow from the moon, casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to shift and grow with every gust. Their blankets were thin, offering little barrier against the chill, and the scent of smoke clung to them, a reminder of the fire they had tended earlier. Each breath they took was visible in the cold air, hanging like a faint mist before dissipating into the darkness. In the dark of night, unaccompanied minors were handled with extra care. For them, there was a service fee to cover this attention. It included a beverage and a snack, small comforts in the vast, chilly expanse of the night. They would huddle together, the cold seeping through their thin clothes, their breath visible in the dim lantern light. The service fee ensured they had something warm to drink and perhaps a biscuit or piece of fruit. It was a small luxury in a world without insulation, where the dark held many unknowns. Their small hands would wrap around the warm cups, a temporary respite from the biting cold. The biscuit crumbs would fall onto their laps, tiny morsels of comfort in the vast darkness. The lantern light cast long shadows, dancing slightly with each breath they took, creating fleeting patterns on the chilly walls. They would listen to the distant hum of the night, a constant reminder of the world beyond their little circle of warmth. Their fingers, numb from the chill, would fumble with the cup's handle, seeking the warmth within. The biscuit's sweetness was a distant memory, now just a comforting texture against their lips. Each sip of the hot drink would reveal a new layer of quiet, the world outside seeming to hush as they found solace in the simple act. Their eyes, heavy with sleep, would drift closed, only to be roused again by the gentle dance of shadows on the wall. Their cheeks would flush with warmth from the drink, a brief sanctuary in the otherwise frozen air. The lantern's glow would flicker, casting ephemeral shapes that danced with their dreams. Their bodies would lean into one another for shared heat, the collective huddle creating a makeshift shelter. The night would stretch on, each minute marked by the slow rise and fall of their breaths. In the deep dark of night, they huddled together for warmth in their modest log cabins. The vast number of researchers, over 3.9 million, contributed to the knowledge we have today about these frontier families. They would wrap themselves in thick blankets, the cold air seeping through the chinks in the logs. The fireplace crackled softly, casting long shadows across the room. Outside, the sounds of the night were a constant reminder of the dangers that lurked in the darkness. Their routines were simple and methodical, each action carefully planned to conserve energy and warmth. They would lay out their pallets near the hearth, the comforting heat radiating against their backs. The faint scent of wood smoke filled the air as they slowly drifted off to sleep, surrounded by the quiet hum of the night. Their breaths misted in the chill air as they burrowed deeper into their blankets, seeking respite from the biting cold. The cabin walls creaked softly with each gust of wind, a gentle lullaby to those inside. The embers of the fire glowed like tiny suns, casting a warm glow on the worn wooden floors. Their hearts beat in rhythm with the distant hoot of an owl, a soothing metronome for their slumbering minds. Their blankets rustled softly as they turned over, the wool fibers creating a subtle friction against the fabric. The cabin's timber frame groaned gently with each shift of weight, echoing the steady breaths of those nestled within. A faint glow from the waning embers reflected off the ceiling's rough-hewn beams, creating a soft canopy of light above their slumbering forms. Their dreams were simple and comforting, weaving together the familiar sounds of the night into a peaceful tapestry of sleep. Inside the log cabins, families found some measure of safety and warmth. The cold nights were filled with quiet activities as they stayed indoors to avoid the dangers that lurked in the dark outside. Authors who shared their stories on the Frontiers platform had a unique advantage. Their work reached a vast readership base. This large audience allowed their words to travel far beyond the confines of their own communities. The cabins were simple and humble, with little insulation against the harsh elements. They huddled together, the warmth of their bodies offsetting the chill that seeped through the walls. Sounds outside were muffled, creating a sense of security within those sturdy logs. As the night wore on, they settled into their routines, each knowing their role in maintaining this peaceful sanctuary. The flickering of the fire cast long dancing shadows on the rough-hewn walls, creating a rhythmic ballet that calmed and lulled. Their breaths misted in the frigid air, a subtle reminder of the unforgiving night beyond their doors. The scent of wood smoke mingled with the faint aroma of cooking food, filling the cabin with a sense of comfort and belonging. A soft woolen blanket was passed around, its warmth enveloping them as they listened to the distant howling of the wind. The logs creaked softly with the wind's gentle press, echoing through the cabin like a distant lullaby. The warmth from the fireplace slowly crept up to the rafters, banishing the chill that clung to the timber beams. The subtle glow of the lantern cast a soft light on the hand-carved furniture, each piece holding memories of their craftsmanship. A quiet sense of tranquility filled the room as the embers crackled, their comforting rhythm blending with the steady ticking of the clock. The Frontier Miles World MasterCard was available for customers in this time. They would have seen it, perhaps in a general store or a neighbour's home, a small card with promise etched into its surface. The cold of the log cabin would be a constant companion, even as they lay down on their beds made of straw and wool blankets. These were not luxuries but necessities to keep the biting chill at bay. They would have listened to the steady drip of water from the roof, the wind howling outside, the soft snoring of those already asleep. The fireplace in the corner, though dying down for the night, still held a faint glow, casting long shadows across the room. Their routines were simple but effective. A quick check on the livestock, the final chores completed, and then, finally, they could rest. Their bodies ached from the day's labour, each muscle protesting as they tried to relax into sleep. The scent of wood smoke lingered in their hair and clothes, a reminder of warmth from earlier in the day. Their breath misted in the air with each exhale, slowly dissipating as it met the cooler atmosphere. The cabin's timbers creaked softly with every shift in weight or change in temperature, a rhythmic lullaby that signaled the end of another long day. Their eyelids grew heavy with each blink, the day's tiredness settling in like a comfortable quilt. The cabin's simple hearthstone felt warm against their backs, soaking up the remnants of the day's fire. Each quiet sigh carried a sense of relief, a release from the constant vigilance required by life on the frontier. Their limbs gradually lost feeling, as if melting into the coarse bedding beneath them, easing into a deep, much-needed sleep. Understanding the everyday realities of frontier life provides insight into the routines that governed the settlers' lives. They would have been mindful of the moment they called it a day in their log cabins, for there were no modern comforts to ease them into sleep. The cold could be harsh, yet they found ways to make their simple beds as inviting as possible. Blankets, often made from homespun wool or animal skins, would have been their primary defense against the chill. Despite the lack of insulation, they managed to find rest in these humble dwellings. The sounds of nature, from the hooting of owls to the gentle rustling of leaves outside, might have lulled them into a peaceful slumber. Their days were structured around simple tasks and responsibilities, each one essential for their survival. As the night deepened, they would drift off to sleep, secure in the knowledge that their daily duties had been attended to. The crackling of the fireplace or the soft glow of a lantern might have been the last sensations they remembered before succumbing to exhaustion. Their breaths would mist in the chill air as they huddled together for warmth beneath their thick covers. The rhythmic snoring of a nearby family member might have provided an additional layer of comfort and familiarity. A faint whiff of wood smoke from the dying embers would linger in the cabin, signaling the end of another long day. The soft creaking of the logs that made up their home would serve as a gentle reminder of the simple strength that sheltered them throughout the night. In the quiet of a frontier cabin, settlers began their day with the soft glow of sunlight peeking through the windows. They worked steadily, their hands moving gently from task to task until the sun dipped below the horizon. The sounds of their labour filled the air, echoing off the simple log walls that offered little barrier against the cold outside. As the day wore on, the chill crept in, a constant companion to their work. When the light finally faded, they would find respite in the gentle embrace of sleep, their bodies weary from the day's efforts. Their feet, numb from the cold earth beneath the cabin's floor, carried them to their beds of hay and furs. The fire in the hearth had long since died out, leaving only the faintest hint of warmth. The crackle of logs underfoot was a familiar lullaby as they settled into their simple resting places, ready to surrender to the night's peaceful silence. Their breaths misted in the air as they huddled together for warmth, the hay beneath them rustling softly with each movement. The cabin's simple wooden walls creaked gently in the night breeze, their voices muffled by the thick blankets pulled up to their chins. A faint whiff of smoke from the day's fire still clung to their clothes, a comforting reminder of the warmth they had once known. In the silence, the occasional hoot of an owl or the soft scurrying of small creatures outside served as a soothing symphony, lulling them further into sleep. Honda Financial Services offered a secure login page for customers. In the quiet of the night, after the day's chores were done, they would sit by the flickering light of their log cabin, the cold air seeping through the cracks. They would log in to Honda Financial Services, where every keystroke was encrypted, ensuring that their financial accounts remained secure. The cabin's wooden walls provided little insulation against the chill, but they found solace in the rhythmic tapping of their fingers on the keyboard. Their breaths misted in the air as they navigated the secure portal, the warmth of their bodies contrasting with the cold night outside. The sound of the wood burning in the hearth filled the room, a comforting reminder of home. They would finish their tasks, log out, and finally, rest. Their fingers, stiff from the cold, warmed slightly as they typed, the keys beneath them feeling smooth and familiar. The faint glow of the laptop screen cast long shadows across their faces, illuminating the wrinkles that spoke of years gone by. The scent of pine from the logs burning in the fireplace mingled with the aroma of their freshly brewed tea, a soothing blend that they had grown fond of over time. As they leaned back in their chairs, the old leather creaking softly beneath them, they could feel the comforting weight of a long day's work completed. Their eyes grew heavy as the fire's embers dimmed, the room darkening gradually around them. A gentle snore began to rise and fall, matching the rhythm of the cabin's old wooden floorboards creaking softly with each breath of wind outside. The steam from their tea curled upward, disappearing into the cold air as they sank deeper into the warmth of their chairs. Their fingers, now relaxed, hung loosely by their sides, the keyboard's glow fading slowly, casting one last long shadow before the room fell silent. And that is how frontier families found their rest, night after night, long before our own comforts existed. Their nights are over now, and yours is just beginning. Sleep well.